Alright guys, so here is my GPB-261 Mainliner, powered by a L134 Go Double Willys. It runs, it welds. I'm in the process of slowly restoring it back to 100% tip top. Burns a lot of oil right now. So I just recently made this hand crank out of some scrap tubing I had and a piece of scrap rigid tubing I had. I pounded in here. So you see the way these work is there's a cross pin in the end of the crank, and this engages it. Now with these Go Double motors, when you're looking at the front of them, they spin clockwise. So what you want is it to engage, and then when the engine overtakes the hand crank speed, this ramp here, you can see there's a ramp on both sides, so your cross pin's in here like this. Whenever the engine overtakes it, it'll kick it right out, so you don't like break your arm. I see a lot of guys, they'll tuck their thumb in whenever they pull it over, but this thing has such low compression. It has the industrial head on it, has like 5 or 6 to 1 compression. It's crazy. So there's not really any danger unless it actually fires and kicks backwards. So the purpose of this video is to see if I can get this thing fired up on the crank. I could just turn the key on and hit the button. Everything works, the starter works and everything, but that's no fun. So turn my fuel on here. This fuel tank's off another antique Hobart welding power. That's Lincoln, isn't it? Same kind of deal. Little 4-cylinder Wisconsin Hobart, something like that. Okay, so you got fuel. I checked the oil already. Always check your oil on antique machinery. Always. Otherwise you're going to have a bad day probably. And also you don't want to leave the key on a points ignition, because if the points are touching you can burn them up. So we got choke, we got fuel. There's no prime on this fuel pump, so we're just going to have to crank it a couple times. This thing's pretty good with firing. It's 88 degrees to get today, so I think we're going to be in good shape for this thing starting up. It wants to go. Let's check this crank out. It's still good. When I first made it, I didn't have that plug in there, and it just tore it up. Just the pipe by itself is not really enough. I've seen some pretty crude looking hand cranks, but the pipe just wasn't enough. Compression stroke. It wants to go. Once that bowl gets filled up, it wants to go. It's like, come on, give me another crank. I could smell that old stinky fuel coming out of that exhaust. Oh, we're putting this crank through its paces, aren't we? You know, this might be a thing where after it's already been running for the day, then you can hand crank it to save your battery, but see, this is why the Continental power plant is probably a lot better, because it has a magneto, and as soon as it spins, it's energized and it's firing. I don't know. Never tried to start an SA200 by hand. It's probably about as much fun as this is. I'm about ready to run it for a little bit. Let me take some choke off. There's fuel there. Yeah, there's fuel there. Wouldn't that be funny if the battery was dead and I'm just an idiot? I better make sure that battery's not dead. So this thing hasn't run for about a week. Let's see, I got 20 pounds of pressure. Always check your oil pressure. So I'm gonna let this thing warm up. I'm gonna let it warm up, shut it down, turn the key back on and see if it'll fire up after it's already been running. Can you imagine, just think back in the day when when there were no electric starts, like back in the Model T days. If you wanted to go somewhere in the winter, of course they had manual spark retardation, and that's probably why they had to have it, to even get the thing running. So here it is, the iconic flat fender Willys power plant, running a 250 amp generator, welder generator. A lot of these got, I mean, you can obviously see a lot of these got scrapped because of the engine. There are a lot more Jeep enthusiasts than there are welders. But I'm a Jeep enthusiast and a welder, so this is, for me, this is perfect. Pounds of oil. £45 at welding speed. Baby uses some oil though. If I'm welding all day, I go through a quart. So it's about time to get it rebuilt. So what I learned from the actual block casting numbers, that this block is actually an M38 block, which means most of the welders in this time period probably got the M38 blocks. So I hate to say this, but if you're looking to restore an M38, you need a new motor, you want it to be period correct and everything, try to find one of these old Hobarts. It's gonna have the casting number is 804380. Has a CJA tag on it. Of course, you can see the can you see camera? Industrial head, low compression. I mean, there it is. It's like you just ripped it right out of a Jeep and stuffed it in a welder. .30 weight. I was running 1040 half synthetic for a while, and I was just, after it got hot and was starting to idle, I'd have like 10 pounds, and I know 10 pounds is kind of enough on idle, but I still want a little more oil pressure than that, so. Alright kids, let's see if we can hand crank start this son of a bitch. Alright, key back on. Where did I throw that crank out of frustration? Oh, it's right there. Now watch it bite me. It's gonna bite me and you guys are gonna watch it on YouTube. We'll all have a good laugh about it. Get to a compression stroke. How about that? Do you hear fire? Because this is a governor motor, here's the way this works. I don't want to leave the key on because of the points. Here's the way this works though. Okay, this is your welding control solenoid here. Okay, this side. I rebuilt this because it wasn't working right. This is your governor on this. So it's an oil powered governor. It always wants to pull it wide open, which it is right now. And whenever you have engine vacuum, this is normally on, so when the engine fires it wants to pull it back down to idle. And then the governor takes over. Somehow, how does this fucking work? Ooh, I'm hitting it with fuel every time I do that. I'm an idiot. Anyways, if you study this, you can see how it works. So, whenever it fires and you have some engine vacuum, it will pull back down to idle. But default is wide open whenever it fires, which I don't exactly like, but that's the way it is. Key. You got to turn on the key. Easy pleasy, mac and cheesy. So the way this works is you have engine vacuum coming into this diaphragm right here and it's holding it down on idle. Whenever you strike an arc, whenever you even flip this polarity switch here, energizes this solenoid, pulls the plunger, actually pulls it down. There's a Schrader valve right here that's holding this vacuum. Whenever the plunger hits that, it bleeds the vacuum off, governor takes over, and it'll pull it up to welding speed. Just like that. Whenever you stop welding, this de-energizes, plunger comes back up, builds vacuum, and then comes back down to idle. I'm pretty sure this is the dwell. Pretty sure this is the dwell. Let's run this in and see what happens. That's all the way in. It should dwell a little bit before it comes back. Or no. Yeah. It didn't do nothing, did it? This might be plugged up. That's like an idle mixture screw, you know what I mean? And I know it goes into that vacuum chamber somehow. Now when I pull this, I'm going to have a vacuum leak. Watch this. It's sucking it in there. Okay. This might actually control how fast the vacuum bleeds off. I won't piss with that for now. So there you have it, the GPB-261 Mainliner, rated at 250 amps, 60% at 250, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 60% at 250. Now, if any of you guys can help me out with these old Hobarts, there's no amperage figures on this, so I have no idea. I mean, I dial it in randomly. You know, so when I'm running 1/8 inch 18s, I'm like second gear, crank it up to like right around there for a flat or horizontal. So, and then I just fine tune it if it's a little too hot or a little too cold. But I don't know what each one of these numbers means, and nobody seems to anymore. So if any of you guys can help me out, I'd appreciate that. All right, thanks for watching.